Hello, everybody, and welcome back to some more, I don't know what I'm going to call this, Rossco and Scots-word chatting shite about Fear of Dracula. In this episode, we are going to talk about the item cards that the hunters can obtain throughout the game. If you didn't know already, we've already done these sort of discussion videos for the Hunter events, Dracula events, and Dracula encounters. Yeah, they go on far too long, but it doesn't matter. We just like chatting shite about the game. So, hello, Rossco.
Hello, yes, here we are back again.
So, we'll promise not to get into any arguments about how the cards work, like we did with Enraged. And what was the other thing? Oh yeah, no clangers in terms of mistakes. Hopefully, we all know what we're talking about today. I didn't tell you.
I still don't know what we.
Well, see the thing is, see the thing is, I want to tell you what the clanger was, but at the same time, I want you to see the edit, like,
Right, okay.
with no. Oh, I don't know. Basically, we got the number of encounter cards wrong.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh well, that's just fun for us, isn't it? So
Yeah.
Give some stuff to talk about in the comments. So that's fine.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is, I put in like a very not so subtle edit just to make it clear. Like I knew it was a mistake, and I took the piss out of it, so it's fine. So yeah, we got the library open with all the items, and we'll go through. We're not going to do a tier list, but we'll just chat about them, what we like about them, what we don't like, item combos, that sort of thing. So just for people to get up to speed, obviously hunters can carry 3 items at once, apart from Seward, who's just a boss, and can carry 4. In the digital edition library, dodge, escape, and punch are listed here as items, which I find quite funny. They're not items in the conventional sense. You don't pick them up during the game. They're just default cards you take when you enter combat, but if you got like the physical edition, they've got the same back as the items. Obviously, when you enter combat, the items go in, so you can't tell, is it an item that you've obtained, by supplying, or is it a standard combat card, a basic combat card. So they're here, but we're not going to talk about them because there's no fucking point, because they're not items. The point of this video is items. Oh yeah, differences between digital and physical. The way I've now been told the physical version works is when you enter combat, you take all of the items you have into your hand, and then you play from them. But obviously there are some cards which are non-combat cards, like dogs and horses or whatever. So maybe I might put an edit on the screen. You can probably confirm this, Roscoe, since you've played the physical version more. If it's a card you can play if it's an item card you can play in combat, it has like a banner on the left-hand side that indicates like how it works in combat. And if it's a non-combat card, it doesn't have the banner on the left-hand side.
Yeah, there's red and yellow banners down the side, so it's your 3 default punch, escape, and dodge. You've got it's like your sort of passive or default cards, and then red is a conventional weapon.
Right. So, okay.
That shows it on. Although, funnily enough, and again, the board game, I started amending it our own kind of way, because in the board game you kind of say, right, you place your card, they place theirs, and that's it. What we did was we didn't include all our hands, so basically whatever because again it made it more it lets Dracula see that hunters have only got 1 item, but then when you go into this, that's similar. You can see that there's 4 in a hunter's hand, so it's a 3 default plus 1 other.
Yeah, so that's something in the
started like a sort of top trumps. We were just like, right, you know what? Choose your card you want. You do 3, 2, 1. Place it down. You would on this, you've got the choice of the card that you want. Whereas in there, it's more sort of you just play a card and that's it. So yeah, a couple of discrepancies, but it just whatever makes it the board game. Whatever makes it more exciting. You can just amend it as you want, really. So.
I think the thing with house rules you can do it. So that's interesting. Yeah, in the physical version, at least the 3rd and 4th, maybe previous ones, I don't know, because the combat's a bit different. I have no knowledge of it, but at least for the latest board game edition, you take all the item cards into your hand. In the digital edition, that's not how it works. When you go into like the combat information screen, I'll try and remember to put an edit up for this. There's a little number, and it tells you what the combat hand size is of the hunter, and that's basically, as you said, the 3 basic ones, plus any cards which can work in combat. In the library here, you can tell if it's a combat card or not, because, like, for example, I've got escape highlighted here. It's got these little symbols at the bottom. That's for combat. For example, if I go to horses, there are no symbols. So horses is not a combat card. So that's the thing, as Dracula, you can get a little bit of information of like, do the hunters have a stake? Do they have this? Or whatever. So yeah, there's a few little bits and pieces you can gain from it, which is quite interesting. So yeah.
I think that's good for Dracula. I mean, Dracula.
I think so.
much help as you need, as much. And again, if you fall into the sort of the theology or the sort of, the gameplay in the book, Drac has this all-seeing, can kind of work out who's got what, and he can mesmerize. So to have a sort of inside look into the hunter's mind and see the cards, I like that. It's a kind of, oh right, yeah, Drac should be able to see not what the cards are, but you got 4, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so I know that you've got 1 weapon. So I like that.
I think so, and there's obviously still a little
Some
bit.
don't, but it is what it is.
It's still a bit of ambiguous, as you said. You don't know what cards they are. So obviously for the combat cards, you don't know what they are, and also then unless they're revealed, and then obviously for the non-combat cards, you don't know, like, unless they've used horses like openly. Do they have dogs? Do they have a stake? Do they have holy bullets? And you got to play the game. Then you got to try and think, what card do I think they have, kind of thing. So,
Absolutely.
So yeah, 30 item cards in total, 12 unique, so we'll just go through them. Okay, Roscoe, I'll give you the choice. Do you want to go through the combat ones first, or the non-combat ones first?
Let's just do combat first.
Right, okay, we'll just do an alphabetical order then, and the first one we've got is a crucifix. So yeah, cancels, I think that's the word, cancels Fangs, Mesmerize, and Escape is Missed, which is very unusual. It's the only item in the game that can counter Escape is Missed, and if you block Fangs and Mesmerize, Vampire, whether it's Dracula or normal like fighting vampire, takes 3 damage. So there's 2 of them in the deck. I'll let you. What do you think about Crucifix?
I think it's very underrated. I like it. I think it's a nice surprise card to throw.
Yeah.
Because again, there may be errors in here because I can't remember what I talk about half the time. So if there's any errors in cards, I'm sure it'll get flagged up. But I think it's the only one in there that actually has an effect on 3 items. It stops the Fangs, the Mesmerize, and the Escape is Missed, as you say.
In terms of directly countering, yeah, Garlic has an effect on 3, but it doesn't counter the claws, but it does damage back. But yeah, in terms of like, it outright blocks 3 things. Yes, it does. Yeah.
I think it's great because the amount of times Dracs will do, if they do a Mesmerize, or if they know, it's good to have. Sued having that, I think, is always one to keep, and I would, if Sued, if they know you've got a knife and a rifle, and it's a case of very rarely, and I've had it whenever it's been drawn, you're like, oh fuck, and because it's 3 damage, and they only get 2 fangs, and if they've, they use 1 on this, and then you draw a knife, their fangs have gone, and it's, it's one of those. The only issue about it is because it's not a conventional, that obviously you're gonna get hit if you go to bodyguards.
Yes.
You can't defend against it like Heavenly Host.
Yeah.
It's more a passive rather than an aggressive, if you like. So that's the only downside. But if you've only, you wouldn't have this fast horse and a stake. But if you've got a knife, a stake, I would take a crucifix over a pistol, arguably. Because it's got 3 and again 3 in 1 chance, and if they get a mist, or if they get a plotting and they manage to get a mist, this is a great card to stop them escaping as well, and that could be the difference between them maturing a vampire or not. So yeah, I get it, but I think as a passive, I like it. I would keep it if it came up.
I definitely agree. It's a really good surprise play. Once the Dracula knows that you have a crucifix, it's kind of like, well, I can work around it, but. And I agree, especially with dealing with vampires, because a typical thing, at least from what we've seen, in our Discord community playing Digital Edition, is when unless Dracula wants to try to kill or bite a hunter with a normal, not with Dracula, but with a normal fighting vampire, if they don't want to do that, to play defensively, they might just do 2 strengths, 2 mesmerizers, or some sort of combination of the 2. And then they'll Escape is Missed on the 4th round, because that's how fighting vampires can leave. But often if you pull this out, then they can't do that. And then often Escape is Bat doesn't work, because if they've got weapons and whatever, they might be scared to Escape as Bat. So the only thing is it doesn't take damage if you stop the Escape is Missed, which is a bit of a shame. But
if you've got Sister Aggie in play, I keep going. All of a sudden that covers the miss side. There's 2 damage, and
they'd have to leave.
If strength is played, you don't lose it.
That's the only problem. Yeah, because obviously strength and night would break this, which is a problem. But
again, same as others, it would. So
It's a really nice surprise play, because especially when you're playing against like reckless vampires, because reckless vampires are either going to fang you to try and get the point, or they're going to mesmerize you to stop you from escaping. If you pull this, especially it counters both, and then suddenly the reckless is down to 1 health, and it's like, oh shit, now what do I do? Then you got some options. You can maybe just punch it to death if it does something else or whatever. So, yeah.
A new vampire, if a new vampire and you don't have a stake and you've got 3 items, you draw this, that's them down from 6 to 3, because the new vampires without a stake are a pain in the ass.
That's
if
true.
If you can do this and take 50% health off them, then you've got another 2 weapons. You could pretty much deal with them in one sitting instead of having to delay another hunter. So
that's true. I never thought about it that way, and also because of how mesmerize works. Mesmerize only affects weapons. This is not a weapon. So even if the hunter is mesmerized, the crucifix would still do the 3 damage to them. It's not like it's reduced to 2. So it's actually, in that sense, yeah, it can do a lot of damage. But then again, you feel really bad about it if like, especially if you're having like a multi-hunter fight and you're not the one targeted, and then Dracula breaks the weapon of the other, and you're just standing there throwing the crucifix. So you're just like, Dracula's just like, all right, I don't care. Like, you show me your crucifix all you want. So yeah, maybe weak in terms of like once it's revealed. But as a surprise card, yeah, it can be really devastating, just depending on the situation. Yeah. How does play it well? So yeah, kind of, if we were doing a tier, kind of like somewhere kind of in the middle. It's not the best, and it often gets ditched because obviously you always end up on hunters, where it's like, oh shit, I don't want to have horses and a crucifix. That's just asking for trouble. But I think maybe again a lot of the problem we have with these items, because we're so fixated on like fast horses meta. If we didn't do that and we had all the other hunters basically given up a free item slot for other stuff, then maybe crucifix we've seen more often and it could be more devastating. Just depends. So yeah.
And yeah, if you've got this knife and garlic, that's a good fucking hand.
Oh yeah, you're
going to struggle to get damage. So
and you're never getting bitten, are you? So
yeah. No, I like it. I like the crucifix. And again, if I get it, I will keep it if I need to, depending on what your hand is. But yeah, good old crucifix.
Yeah, I think underrated is a good way to put it. Yeah, but not top tier either. Okay, we'll skip dogs, skip horses. Right, garlic. I think this is another one I think is underrated. I think a lot of people just look and go, ugh, it's not a weapon. And again, with the caveat being if Dracula is throwing down lots of encounters like bodyguards and stuff like that, then obviously garlic isn't great. But it blocks strength, which I think might be, apart from dodge, is the only item that blocks strength. Actually, Heavenly Host is encountered by strength, but this one actually just blocks and goes, no, you don't do that. It also blocks fangs, which is nice. And if the Dracula does play fangs, then there's 2 damage that they take, which is nice. You can do some things where you just cycle between dodge and garlic, and Dracula basically can't do anything to you. They could plot against you, but that's it. That's the only thing they can really do. And again, it's kind of like a nice surprise card. You can also use it. I've seen it being used in the league and stuff where, with Mina, if you reveal someone who's been bitten, if you reveal they have a garlic, then Dracula will be like, ooh, I don't want to fang you, because if you just play garlic on me, then I'm going to take 2 damage. I don't want to take 2 damage, but then you can use it to hide other stuff, like a Heavenly Host or something of that nature. Normally Heavenly Host. And actually, the game I played recently against Bugsby, that actually happened. I fanged Godalming, thinking, oh, he's going to play his Heavenly Host, now he played fucking garlic. I'm like, oh my god, really? And that screwed me over. So yeah. I don't know, I think, again, it's underrated. Obviously, yeah, against encounters it's weak, but if you have a Seward, if you mix this in with some weapons, it's not bad. I think it's again not top tier, but I think don't knock garlic. What do you think? Do you agree with me, or do you a little bit more pessimistic about it?
I agree with that. I think it's more the one thing about that is if you're fighting at night and Dracula fangs you, you still take 8 damage. They take 4. So it can block that, but you could potentially die if you've just got a garlic in your hand, because if it's a day fight or you jump on somebody, fair enough, it's a nice little counter. You take 2 damage, so do they. But like I say, if it's at night time, you take 4 damage, they're only taking 2.
Oh, you meant from claws, not from fangs. Oh my god.
Yeah, claws,
okay.
yeah.
Right, okay, yeah, true, yeah, that's the only problem. You deal damage, back. Yeah, as you said, you could. Dracula might have just care go. I don't care if you play Garlic. I'll just claw through you then, and that could be the difference between a dead hunter or yeah.
Again, I like the fact that it covered. Yeah, strength. I mean, strength is a good one because again, you know, at night they'll typically try and break your knife or your rifle.
Yeah.
It's got the fangs, which again is great. If you've got that doubled up with, you know, a knife, a fangs, then you're kind of like, all right, okay, that's a nice little backup as well. It's the claws you could be worried about. Obviously, mesmerize and plotting is the issue that you can play plotting and you do no damage to them, and that can be difficult. But yeah, I think it's kind of I think probably about the same, maybe about the same as Crucifix, maybe a bit higher because it's a bit more aggressive. But then, or is it? When you do more damage.
I don't know. It's tricky. You can block one like it counters maybe more stuff, but it does less damage. Also, you feel pretty bad if you're in like a multi-hunter fight and you play Garlic and you're not the one being targeted, and you just Dracula's like, okay, you throw Garlic at me all you want, like I don't care.
I think that's the only reason why that and Crucifix would be where it is, because again, if it's a multiplayer and you don't play it, it doesn't have any effect on the vampire unless, of course, they choose you. But I think it's a nice defensive weapon to have because again, if the vampires don't draw claws, then really, you know, the problem is they could try plotting and then draw claws, and if it's at night time, they could start doing damage to you. So I'd probably have it. Yeah, probably there or thereabouts with Crucifix. I think it's good to have.
Especially because there's 3 of them, you can like maybe ditch 2 and have 1 running around on a hunter. Then, and again, it's like kind of like the surprise factor. Like Dracula might not expect you. Like, you know, if Dracula plays like, I'm going to break a weapon, and it's like Garlic's like, oh shit. And I've not done. It's not like Dracula's taking any damage, but like, oh shit, I've wasted one of my best combat cards on Garlic, and it's something. Yeah. So. Yeah, again, I think a lot of the times it just gets ditched. If you see, like, especially my league videos, if anyone's watching and it's like, what's this league they keep talking about? We've got a League of Dracula tournament going on, and hopefully it won't be the last. Hopefully there'll be more in the future. In my channel, there's like a playlist of all the games. So if you see that, you'll notice as Dracula, I often check the discard pile a lot to see what hunters are ditching, and you'll normally see Garlic being ditched most of the time. But at the same time, you're like, oh, well, maybe not. If you don't see it in the discard pile and they got through quite a lot of the item deck, well, maybe they are running around with Garlic, which is good then, because again, it doesn't stop encounters like bodyguards and whatever. But against combat, it's slightly harder for Dracula to hurt the hunters. So, it's, you know, it's all about, this game's all about choices, and ultimately it's just trying to work out at the right time, do you have this item or this item? It just depends on the situation. I think,
you can't carry everything, so you can choose what you. It does more damage than others, I would say, but there's one other card that I kind of ditch all the time, and I'm really not sure why. So maybe we'll discuss it when it comes up. But with this, I like, as you say, it's a good. I mean, if a day fight with a vampire and you've got 2 Garlic in your hand, you can pretty much get rid of them. If they've got that, if they try and fang you twice, then there's 4 damage done. So that's a Reckless gone.
Yeah.
You don't take any damage, and there's no IP for Drac. So, Garlic and Crucifix will have in a little back pocket.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Probably early game, then maybe a little bit better. But then once Dracula knows you have it, then you can maybe. But then maybe if Dracula's not potential, you could supply, and you can then swap it out for something else.
Or swap with hunters. Yeah, if you're in the same city, swap around so that. You don't know, it's good to, you think one person's got it and then they don't play it, but you think they're going to. That's not on them at all. Then
someone else has it.
From fanging. And that helps you play a heavily host. So, it's all, I think that's strategy and tactics.
I think that's really important that you said you can't carry everything. So, across all the hunters, and you will normally be full item unless you ditch an item because of an encounter or whatever, and you have to resupply. But hunters can carry a maximum of 13 items between them. But there's 38 items in the deck. So that you can only carry about a third of all the items in the game. So it really does come down to, as hunter strategy, what do you want to carry, what do you value more than everything else. Also, what you might need, right? We'll talk about other stuff later, but suddenly you might realise, oh no, I don't need this now, so I can ditch it out and get other stuff. And then as the game changes, oh shit, no, I need that item again. You've got to try and cycle through the deck to find it. So, no.
And the thing is, quick as hunters are burning through a deck. These days in the kind of game, gameplay the way it's done. If you lose it, it's like, well, that's fine. I'll get it back in week 3 or week 2. You know, so it's not got the same. It's gone and that's it. You know, there's always that chance of getting it back again. So yeah, okay.
Sure.
Garlic and crucifix in the same. That's good.
Yeah. Okay, Garlic Reef. This is kind of the one, at least in the Discord community that we currently have, the meta that we play. This is the one that you almost instantly ditch. I don't think I've seen it once being played in the league. So yeah,
No,
basically, I think it's because it's got so much text. You're like, oh, it's got a lot of text, so it must be good. So the problem is here. So you have to activate it before the start of combat. So it's not actually one that you. Well, actually no. Well, yeah, this is. It's not a combat card, but it's relevant to combat. So I guess we could talk about it now. You do it before combat. It stays in play for the whole time. If you suffer damage from her fangs, then the vampire takes 4 damage in return. So it's like a more powerful version of normal garlic. But the thing is, it's just damage from fangs, not a bite. So you can't use it to protect you from a bite. And also, if Dracula manages to get claws onto you, you take the damage from claws, and Garlic Reef is then discarded. So there might be things you could maybe do. You could use this to, like, protect yourself from, like, a heavenly host. But again, does it protect you from a heavenly host? Because it says suffer damage from fangs. But I guess it's not a bite, so if it's fangs on heavenly host, that's not a damage. That technically bites you instead of damaging you. So then, yeah, the vampire would suffer 4 damage. So you can use it to protect heavenly host, but you're basically 1 fighting card less or fewer, and it's just I don't know. I think
it's been revealed straight away. It's not secret, so they know the play. It's like, you know, if you're playing Lucy's Revenge or whatever similar, like for the item, you've played it. You don't want to not play it because it's how the fuck are you going to have it in your hand? So you do it. As you say, the option is that, okay, well, again, this game's all about combinations. If you've got Aggie in play and you play Garlic Wreath, you've got a Heavenly Host, then your Drax could be thinking, well, hang on a minute, if I do this, I'm going to get hit with Garlic Wreath. I'm going to take damage because, oh, right, okay.
From Aggie.
Here. Yeah. So there's 6 damage. And if you've played Heavenly Host and you're not mesmerized, then you take 4 and you're out of the game, or out of the combat. Is that worth the trade-off? You know, I don't know. And again, all you got to do is you just got to hit claws with them, and it goes anyway. So I think there's a good reason why it gets ditched. I know there's been a couple of games on YouTubers' videos that have shown kind of like Garlic Wreath OP when it's actually done some damage, but it's got to be all the planets aligning for that to happen. And it's just it's just a slot that you just don't want to be carrying this around.
And obviously, once the combat's done, it's lost. Whereas at least Garlic, you can. It doesn't. Maybe Garlic is not as impactful on that 1 turn, potentially. But Garlic you can just keep, and it never gets broken, and it just keeps getting cycled, and you can then choose to ditch it later if you want. You can have it the whole game if you want. Whereas Garlic Reef, you use it once and it's gone. So
I mean, it's one of those you play that if you've got a shit hand and you haven't been supplying correctly or properly, and it's kind of like you've got it, you throw it down because why not?
Why not?
But again, it's too easy to navigate around an experienced Drac player.
I would say so, yeah, because then Dracula knows, all right, you've got that, and you got fast horses, so you got 1 other combat item, right? I can work around this, and like Dracula doesn't always have to go for the kill. That's the kind of the thing with this. Like there are times when you're playing Dracula, there's that balancing act. Like, what is my objective here with this vampire, or with my fight with the hunter? Am I trying to kill them, or am I just trying to just survive and make it awkward for them? And if you know that, it's like, oh, I'll just play defensively then. I mean, obviously, maybe you might not get the combat cards you need, but you can work around it. So, whereas with Garlic, it's like the surprise that comes and goes, hi, I've got Garlic. And like, oh crap, I didn't realize you had Garlic. So yeah, weak.
The only time this would benefit would be if it's a 2 or a 3v1 where there's a flurry of cards getting placed at the beginning, and it's planned ambush, and it's this and Garlic Reef, and then all of a sudden you're hoping that but then again you could be dead by then. It actually works on you, but by then they kind of forget and click on it and go, oh shit, I forgot that. Straight away.
Especially but in the digital version, yeah. Whereas I guess on a board game, if you have it in front of you,
for that to happen, yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why would you bother? So no, bottom tier for me. If you get a win by it or does some damage, good on you, but you really don't want to be having that kicking about the place.
I don't think I've ever played Garlic Reef in combat. I don't think I've ever remembered, but my bias has probably been skewed because as soon as I came in, people were like, it's crap, ditch it. I'm like, alright, I'll ditch it then.
I think I may have done a couple where there's been for example, if there's been Heavenly Host, I've played it with a view that you'd hope it would discourage hunter, a Dracula kind of playing Fangs maybe straight away, because they're like, well, because for example, if they play Fangs straight away and it's a reckless, you've killed them.
Yeah.
Which is great. But again, you're scraping the barrel. If that's probably me having bad play or not getting the cards I wanted. If you just keep a hold of it. So, and again, because people can see in the discard pile what's gone, sometimes it's good to keep a hold of a shit card to kind of get them. Oh right, okay, you must have 3 really good cards, and just it's just all about kind of misdirection with them. So, but no, let's. I think that's enough of that. Stick it to the bottom and.
Yeah, and as I say, like as a vamp, like if you play this against me on a reckless, I'm just gonna sit there and go, oh, then I'm not gonna fang you then, unless it's like the last turn of the game, and Dracula needs 1 point to win, and you're using it as a defensive. Like no. But then, how would that work? Like if you ambush, surely you'd still get the point, and then the vampire would die. So it doesn't matter anyway. So it wouldn't actually help you. Oh well.
And you would just claw. You would just say, right, you've got Gallery, I'll just claw you.
I'll claw you and then fang you. Yeah, exactly.
Then fang you. Yeah. So.
Right.
Get to fucked.
Exactly. Right. Maybe from one of the weakest to maybe one of the strongest, maybe the strongest, depending on who you talk to. We'll see if we agree. Heavenly Host does the most damage out of any card that you can choose to play, like whatever round you want. Basically, it's a one-time use. The vampire takes 4 damage, and then it's gone forever. It's like a one-time use. However, if Dracula or whoever the vampire is plays fangs against you, you're bitten. Remove from combat, and then you lose the Heavenly Host. If you're Mina, you die instantly. If any others, they suffer a bite. Right. What do we feel about this? Is this really the strongest card in the game?
I think you've got to say it is, because it does the 4 damage. It's 4 damage. I mean, counting on, like in any of the combat rounds, you're counting on drawing a card that the vampire doesn't. If he draws fangs, then he's drawn fangs, and that's it. That's the risk you take by playing it.
Yep.
When do you play it? How do you play it? That's the issue again with this. You can play it, and if Drac plays strength, but you'll still 4 will still kick off.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because the only thing that counters this, nothing counters this card, assuming the hunter is still alive by the time their turn out. Obviously, if Dracula plays strength and the hunter dies from the strength, obviously it doesn't trigger. But in theory, the only thing that cancels this is fangs, and it stops mesmerize. So you can't mesmerize your way out, because obviously mesmerize cancels any combat cards. So you can't mesmerize your way out of this. And
as well, like you said there, if you've got the other thing would be if they Drac clawed you at night, killed your managed to get you on the 4 and there's no great strength, then again you lose and you're out that. But I think what the other thing about this is, I know it's not part of directly within combat, but it's an item card. Of course, you can combo this up with arguably one of the strongest cards in events and have your CG and Heavenly Host. So this has got more than just, your other items are kind of like, you're there purely for combat. This is there for, again, do you want to burn it if you've got CG and you're thinking, shit, I've only got CG and no Heavenly Host? Well, CG becomes kind of redundant unless they've bottlenecked themselves.
Yeah.
So again, that comes into it. The threat, I think with this is, it's the threat or the fear of it getting played can sometimes do more damage than actually playing it. I've had games where, and again, for those hunters out there, if you rush to jump on Drac if he's revealed as quick as you can, you're kind of letting Drac know you've got Heavenly Host.
Yeah.
Or you're very confident in your hand-to-hand combat. Because the amount of times I've had hunters jump on you and you're like, hey, well, they've got Heavenly Host. They must, and especially if you've got 2 on 1, typically they'll both play Heavenly Host at once, so you're going to take 4 damage. But in my game tonight, I played Fangs. Godalming jumped on. I thought, he's far too keen. I played Fangs, took him out of the combat and got rid of Heavenly Host. So, but yeah, I mean, 4 damage. If you've got 2 hunters on 1, you both Heavenly Host kick off. That's 8 damage from Drac, and then
that's half
crippled for a lot of the game.
that's
you play.
Over half health. Yeah, exactly. And I think also
you're losing the risk of. But again, depending, how fast people can burn through the item card. But usually, the offset to that is if you use it, then of course, if you use CG, you haven't got the same level of containment as you would.
But then you might not ever draw CG. And that's the thing.
This is
right?
it. Yeah, one card out of all them.
Yeah. So then
I would use it as purely as combat. I would, if you've got it when you got CG, great. But again, having this and another weapon would be ideal. But then it's great with it because again, is the if you're round 3 in combat and he hasn't drawn fangs yet, and you've got Heavenly Host. Do you then draw, or do you try and escape? Because you're trying to think, right, now we're round 3, he hasn't played fangs, he must have 2 by now. If he's plotted, he's probably going to have fangs. What is the risk? So it is the most powerful, but I think it comes with the most threat of
with great
losing
power.
It is more
great power, great responsibility.
Yeah.
That seems like to be like our channel catchphrase now. That's just like.
That's what it is, though. You know what I mean? It's like if it comes off, great, but if it doesn't, you've got to be, you've got to be careful the fact that, or accept the fact that if you do that and fangs are played, then, and the thing is that if fangs are played, the combat, sometimes if you play it and you can't, the combat's over, then Drac can't escape his bat. So there's a bonus.
Yep.
It's about risk and reward. Do you take that damage, or you hope you get the 4 in it? But, I think out of all these, it's not conventional. So the problem is this can still be damaged by your bodyguards and
exactly. That's the big. I mean, I would say no. It also does stop Discredit Soul from maturing, which can be
correct.
That's
true,
that's basically assuming Dracula plays it well. Where that's basically 6 health that you're denying with the first rotation of encounter cards, which could be the difference between winning or losing. I think the other thing though is. Imagine, I've seen this. I've seen Hunter players in the league going round with Fast Horses, Stake, and Heavenly Host. And I've had it where I've been as Dracula, and they play Heavenly Host first round of combat. I'll be like, oh shit, I took 4 damage. And I look at the combat eye screen. Oh, you now have fucking nothing.
Yeah.
And then...
I've got 5 rounds to just damage you and kill them.
Exactly. You could try to kill them, or even if, Dracula gets 1 fangs in somewhere... Oh, well, they've taken half of that damage back from the fangs, right? They've healed half of that back. And it's only like, oh, you've done 2 damage to me. Oh, well, who fucking cares? It doesn't... I think you need to have this... I'm really much like... Maybe I'm wrong here, and we can talk about combos and stuff, but most of the time, if I'm thinking, right, I want fast horses, potentially a stake, or depends on how the stakes come out, because obviously they could be they all get put on the same hunter. But assuming things are distributed well, fast horses, stake. If I then have to choose between a Heavenly Host or a conventional, I think most of the time I'll actually pick the conventional because you can deal with more stuff that way. And then I can try and, once stakes are burnt, then I can try and get Heavenly Host into my hands for then the final combat with Dracula. I'm not a huge fan with running around with hunters prioritizing Heavenly Host over conventionals. Because of the fact most of the encounters you can't deal with Heavenly Host, and then once the Heavenly Host is used up, then it's done. I understand the counter argument is, with weapons, it can get broken by strength, and that's it. I like combining Heavenly Host with a weapon, because at least you got a weapon then to fall back on, once the Heavenly Host has been used up. Or if you choose not to use Heavenly Host, you got something else. I think that's the thing as a Dracula player. The worst thing I hate is if you've got a hunter running around with Heavenly Host and something, say, a knife, especially a knife because it's like it counters fangs, and then you're sitting there as Dracula going, what are they going to play this round? Are they playing Heavenly Host or are they playing weapon? And then it becomes that, and that's when you're starting to force. As soon as you know that a hunter's only got a Heavenly Host, nothing else, as Dracula's like, right, I can then try and, depending on what the combat card is, right, I can try and manipulate this into a way that can maybe work. If you know the hunter has both Heavenly Host and weapon, as Dracula having to start making like awkward decisions like, are they going to play the weapon this turn, so I don't need to play strength, or they can play Heavenly Host, so I have to play fangs, and then if it's a weapon you don't know if it's knife, that you can counter fangs really well and all this sort of stuff. So it's probably the most powerful card in the game once it pulls off, but it does have disadvantages, and rightly so. It has disadvantages. It'd be really unfair if this was like this overpowered thing that counted everything. And I like this game for that. It's got this nice balance of it does 4 damage, which is the most in the game, apart from Garlic Reef. Obviously, that's not going to happen. It can't be countered by anything apart from 1 combat card, and Dracula has 2 of them. but then obviously it's weak to encounters. Once it's used up, and then you can't use it for CG and stuff. There's some lot of interesting things with this. Very interesting dynamic. I feel like the combination of weapon and heavily host is stronger than heavily host on its own, just because of that you don't know what's going on. Dracula is then caught making different decisions.
I would say though, in argument to your point, if you're Drac and you look at the discard pile, you see those being discarded and a stake has been kept, you'd be happier as Drac. So, I'd be, again, it depends more so, I'd say yourself and a couple of others, fast horses are well and good, but I sort of try and play it to, okay, let's assume that I'm not going to get them on everybody and let's just see what else is there. Sense of emergency, chartered carriage, blah, blah, blah. So therefore it allows you, I'd rather have Heavenly Host, Heavenly Host and a conventional, I think, than even a weapon, than even a stake, because if you haven't got it, there's typically going to be another hunter within the vicinity that may well have that can take care of that. I'd just rather have that, because like I say, if you look at the discard and see 3 stakes I've got, and you're like, alright, but there's still going to be a battle, you can still beat the hunters. If you saw 3 Heavenly Hosts or 2 Heavenly Hosts discarded, it's like, right, it's easier to counter, especially with 2 strength, 2 strengths at night or whatever, it's easier to counter that. Plus if they play CG, they're like, well, that's a piece of piss, I've got 2 extra exits from it. So I don't know, I'd rather keep it in my hand, but again, it's horses for courses.
I think I promise you is like, I think a lot of it is like maybe some hunter players are too eager to keep hold of them. I'm not saying you should discard it on every case, that's obviously ridiculous. I like to have Heavenly Host, but often, for example, because Godalming draws 2 item cards, it's very possible that Godalming gets stuck with 2 Heavenly Hosts. Now,
then with your patented startup process,
well, that's the thing. You can trade one, but then in a situation where maybe I have it where like he draws 2 Heavenly Hosts at once, and Mina already has one. I'm like, I'll just ditch one. I don't care. I'll happily ditch one. I think there's too much of a eagerness to hold on to have 2 Heavenly Hosts on the same person. I was like, no, just if you need to ditch one, just ditch one. It's fine. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think the good thing, obviously, I agree with your point entirely. And also as a Dracula player, if you look and see at least 1 Heavenly Host in discard, well now CG is less potent. So that's another thing that's an advantage for as well. But it is
again, it's like you said, you can only hold 13 items across all hunters. And it's one of those
you can't carry everything.
No, I think I know your answer. If you had a hunter with 2 fast horses on them and 2 Heavenly Hosts, I think you'd be more inclined to to swap out a fast horse to another hunter.
Yes.
Instead of a Heavenly Host.
Agreed.
Because that's again about the movement and all the rest. But then if you get to them and you don't have anything to attack them with,
well, that's the thing. Like my idea. Because obviously every game is different and it doesn't end up the bit. But like, if I can get 3 hunters with fast horses onto Dracula. Do I need
items? Yeah.
Do I need to have Heavenly Host? Heavenly Host would be really nice to have, and obviously there's a 3v1. Is Dracula going to find the right one? But like, do I need Heavenly Host? It's not vital. Obviously it'd make it a little bit easier. But if I've got at least 3 strong conventional weapons, if one gets broken, I might be able to have another one that I can cycle in. That might well be enough to kill Dracula. You don't necessarily need the Heavenly Host. It's not vital that every hunter has a Heavenly Host. It just depends. Every game's going to be so different.
Is this the strongest card to have then?
Second?
Is this the strongest card to have for combat then?
I would...
We just talked ourselves out of it.
I'd probably say so, but I don't think it's worth holding on to them all if it's going to cause you problems later. If you see it and you got like a hunter with 2, especially not Seward, because Seward can kind of deal with it because he's got 4 item slots. But if there's any of the others, I'm not going to be running around with, say, horses and 2 Heavenly Hosts. I will never do that. If I need to discard one, I'll discard one. Because I know, as you said, you burn through, especially the way we play, we burn through the item deck so quickly, I might well get it back again. So I'm not going to lose sleep over 1 Heavenly Host being discarded. I'm totally happy with it. I really don't care. But I know other hunters will disagree. Maybe the exception to the rule might be Godalming, because Godalming has more health, so if he does start walking over stuff like bodyguards or whatever, he can take that hit a little bit more. But I will never have someone like Amina or Van Helsing running around with 2 Heavenly Hosts. That's just, or with no conventional. That's just asking for trouble.
I mean,
So
you
yeah,
don't. You always, because I mean, you could. If you have that and you hit one layer and it's wolves, and you hit another layer and it's rats, and you hit another layer and it's bodyguard, you're dead before you've not even had
Yeah.
a chance. I
Did
played somebody that did that. They had 2 Heavenly Hosts, and I killed them just with wolves and rats because they had nothing to defend themselves against. So, yeah, I mean, I'd always like one as one of my weapons in a battle.
Oh
I'd always
yeah,
like
oh
having
absolutely.
one. But yeah, and again, it's if you draw CG, then you kind of like making these cards redundant. As it like, well, what do you want to save it for the CG? You've then got to try and think about how can you manipulate Dracula into a situation where you can use CG effectively, so you're kind of herding him into a certain area, but then Draculas will know that's what hunters are trying to do. So yeah, I think it's got to be up there. It's got to be if there was a tier, I think you got to have top tier because of the 4
Yeah.
damage, but your reward is going to be just as big as your risk.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And as for that, it can't be counted by much. It can only be counted by fines, but it doesn't get counted by mesmerize, and it doesn't get counted by strength. And all other conventional weapons, like a weapon card, they can all be stopped by mesmerize and a strength. Whereas this card, so automatically,
like
yeah.
we said, we
In
just
that
spoke
sense,
about
it's very
Garlic Wreath.
good. Yeah.
You got the combo. You got a gameplay. You play Garlic Wreath. You play Heavenly Host. Then, if they fang you, they take 4. They take 6 damage. Or the 4 in there. You're out of the game. Again, sometimes a good point you made was as Dracula. What do you want to do? Do you want to, if you bite them, you remove them from combat, but you don't kill them. So it's a case of you're still stuck on that location. If there's 3 hunters around you, it's like maybe you want to escape as bat. So beware of. If you know they've got them, sometimes you're like, did I just take the 4 damage? And then, as you say, if you know they've got nothing else and you've got escape as bat, that takes you out of the combat. And then, yeah.
I
think,
think,
as you say, laying it down, you'd want it up there.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, it's definitely near the top. I'm not saying it's bad; it's absolutely good. But I think it's just be careful for new hunter
Ways
players.
and means to play it.
Yeah, and don't see it as this like be all end all thing that you must hold on to no matter what. It's like
That's what fast horse is for.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing that exactly. But no, definitely up there for certain. Yeah. Okay, Holy Bullets, not a combat card in the sense that it can't be played directly in combat because it can be triggered in combat. So we should talk about it. It just basically means if you can get rifle or pistol to trigger, you can play this. It only happens once. You can only play one. Only one Holy Bullets can be used in each combat. So you've got multiple hunters. You can't use multiple Holy Bullets. But still, 3 extra damage. That could be enough. I mean, that's enough to kill a Reckless. If you've got a new vampire that's taking just 1 damage from like a punch or something, then that's it dead. That's a lot of damage to Dracula too. They might not expect you. They go, oh, that's 2 damage from a rifle. That's fine. Oh shit, that's 3 more damage. Yeah, could be the difference.
Yeah. I think again it's a passive one. Again, mesmerize can cancel it, strength can break it, and all of a sudden, if strength breaks your gun, you're walking about with fucking bullets. I mean, what are you going to do with that? So, yeah, it's one of those. I think if you're going into end game and you've got a hunter with it, you kind of go in. We always refer back to Seward just because of the extra slot.
Yeah.
If you had Holy Bullets on Seward and a rifle and a pistol and knife, you'd give it a go because you could, you've got more chance of one of your pistol or rifle kicking off with the Holy Bullets, because obviously if the rifle is broken with strength, the Holy Bullets don't trigger first.
Useless, utterly useless. Yeah, and you can't use them.
It's not like you're committing the Holy Bullets before you play that hand and then all of it gets destroyed, which really it should, because you would load the gun with the bullets anyway. But anyway, that's pedantic.
Yeah, you'd think so. Yeah, that's kind of funny. It's like, yeah, imagine that, like, thematically, like, you're in a fight, like, like, Dracula's done, I don't know, like, trying to claw you, and you've played your rifle. You go, oh, sorry, Dracula, now that you've failed with your claw attack, can I load my Holy Bullets? Like, thanks.
Van Helsing, do a dance or distract him with your bottle of piss. Yeah, I got a minute, I'll be back in a minute.
But
I think it's one of those,
there'd be arguably...
If you look at this card, go as well. Holy Bullets, Dogs, Wreath, you're going to see them in there. If you get it, If it's played against you, it's a fucking ball ache because you're like, you see that slight delay after guns is kicked off, and you're like,
Yep.
ah,
No, you
5
see the
damage.
waiting screen, like, oh god, this vampire's dead or whatever. But that's the
Yeah.
thing, like, that's why the combat information screen is nice, because you can see it and go, right, is this a stake or is this holy bullets? And you can again, maybe your combat cards don't work for you, but you can kind of try to work around it. I've had it before where I've lost, like, vampires to holy bullets. You're like, oh my god, why? Why has this happened to me? But, again, as you say, yeah, like, to make this really good, like, you need to have, like, 2 guns in your hand, to try and give you double opportunity to use it. But then you've got 2 guns and a holy bullets. Oh, okay. So then you got no stake, no fast horses, no heavenly host.
I guess the best option for this to be would be a day fight with a vampire. Then if strength, it doesn't make any difference. You still get a chance.
Yep, it's not broken.
They burn their strength, and then you can still use your 5 damage. So that's the only option. Yeah, but at night time, it's too risky to.
No, I mean,
Like,
I do remember we had a game I can't remember when that was. It was probably just before the tournament or during the tournament, and I managed to get the final kill on you with holy bullets. But I think that's probably the first holy bullets kill I've ever had. Just the game, they're so infrequently used, and it's just like, well, yeah, because it's so reliant on having the rifle, the pistol actually work, and quite a lot of the time, obviously, yeah, combat cards can work against Dracula, but a lot of the time, Dracula will kind of know it and go, right, you've got a rifle or pistol, right, I'm going to try and make sure you can never trigger that card. So, yeah, it's a bit of an awkward one, so I'd say, yeah, it's towards the bottom. Just because it's obviously passive, as you said, it's not an active thing that you can play. You have to wait for the rifle and go, all right, now I can trigger it. Maybe it might not be the right time to trigger it. It just depends.
good to have if it's a 2 or 3v1, then it's great to have because again you've got a
Yes.
you've got a 1 in 3 chance that Drac doesn't pick you, and if you've got rifle and then your holy bullets, that's 5 damage. Heavenly Host has been played, and all of a sudden, but again, if you're 3-on-1, you're going to be pretty fucked anyway as well. But
Yeah.
that's the kind of time you would want to play that. You don't want to be 1-on-1 and kind of say holy bullets, rifle, and another. You're going to have to be lucky to get that. But
Yeah.
yep, stick it down the bottom. Stick it down the bottom.
Right.
If it comes off for you, good luck.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be quite infrequent. Yeah. Don't keep all 3. That's for certain. Holy Soak.
Just showing them a bag of holy bullets. Have you seen what I've brought?
It's like I've got no guns to put them in, but still, it looks cool though, don't they? Yeah.
I knew I'd forgotten something. There was an element of this I should have remembered.
God's sake! Right, okay. Let's go back and get some guns, and then we'll get it. Oh shit! He's escaped. Oh right then.
Now you stay there, Drac. You promise you're going to stay there, right? I'll be back. Just don't you move. He's gone. How can you lie to me? You look so trustworthy.
This
Holy
is
circle.
what.
How many times do you just burn this?
I was gonna say, like, this is why these these videos go for 2 hours. That's the other thing. Like, Holy Circle again is another one that is just typically burnt straight away, but it's like a glorified escape. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's like escape route, but at the same time, you disguise it as a combat card. And you do feel a little bit bad as Dracula when you've done like a really good combination, and the hunter's just like, nope, I'm leaving. And like, oh, I was about to kill you. Like, I can't do it now.
And it can
also,
remove everybody from the.
That's very interesting. Yeah. So you can do some really cool stuff with it, where you can like dodge with everybody, and then the one who's going to die can play holy circles and get clawed to death and all this stuff. So that's some cool things you can do with it. But again, it's kind of like, is there for that surprise factor kind of thing. Obviously, once it's burnt, then it's gone. And depending on the situation, whether if the hunter's stuck there, then the Drac might just go, "Alright, I'll just feed you and kill you next day." Then that's fine. I think it's nice to have. It's kind of similar to Crucifix and Garlic. It's nice just to have it sometimes in the mix, so then Dracula doesn't expect you to have it, and you can play a little bit more aggressive, because you know, I've got this holy circle here, so I'm not dying. As long as I don't do anything stupid and I end up on 1 health at the end of the combat, I can just get out. So I can try to get a Heavenly Host. If it doesn't work, or if I try and play a weapon, it doesn't work, I'll just holy circle my way out. But now I find where Dracula is. But obviously, you know, as I said, it's taking up a vital item slot, which could be a weapon or could be a Heavenly Host. So I'm not saying it's better than those things. But if you just have it in the mix,
passive, you know, it's just purely defensive. It doesn't do any damage to Dracula. Yes, you can get all your teammates out if they've had a
shocker
by him, and it's a case of, you know, if they've got plotting against them, for example. But then again, the problem with this is, if Mina has, or a hunter's got plotting played against them, it doesn't matter if they dodge or not. Drac's going to target them. So therefore, he could target Mina. Circles on Van Helsing. Well,
Yes,
if I
that's
don't choose
true.
Van Helsing, he can't trigger. So I'm still going to kill Mina. And then what's
Yes.
he going to do? Trigger and take away the other two. So, I'd rather, I wouldn't even bother sticking it in my hand. There's enough ways you can work around escaping, and really, don't go into a battle fucking low on health. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to start
Yeah,
jumping into Dracula, well, good luck. But I wouldn't want this in my hand unless, I can't remember. And I've used it. You've either got escape route, which you can use, fucking
and obviously the advantage is with escape route. Van Helsing can hold on to escape route and trade it to the one who will need it, whereas Holy Circle, it's stuck on that hunter. Unless you always get all the hunters to meet up, it's never going to get traded around, so you're just assuming who's going to need it. Again, it's kind of like, as I said, I haven't played it many times. I did have a game in the league where I did play it, because I fucked up a combat, 2v1, and it was Van Helsing was stuck there alone with Dracula. I was like, I'll just play Holy Circle, then I can get out of this. Which was potentially the difference between winning and losing. But yeah, it's just occasionally it's kind of similar to the other things. It's nice just to have in the mix, but yeah, it's not.
I mean, the other issue you got with this is if you've played, you've had a knife and it got done with strength, and then you're like, right, fuck, I need to get out of here. You play it, then you're stuck where Dracula is with no weapons.
Yes.
As you say, he just goes, right, well, I'll just fucking feed or do something, and I'll just take you out if you're low on health, and you've got nothing to fight against it, and it could kill you anyway. So you're just delaying the inevitable, really. So there's better cards you want to be holding that's more aggressive. So yeah.
I know, it looks interesting. You take all hunters out of the combat, but it's better, I think, in a 1v1 situation, because most of the time, often you'll play Holy Circle, and then all the other hunters will be like, no, we want to stay here and fight. You leave. So yeah, I think maybe in better 1v1s, you can use it. You can use it to be aggressive. Maybe on like Mina, because Mina lose last, so she might be more likely to jump into Dracula, and she's also she's at more risk of dying because she's already got the bite and stuff. But yeah, as long as you don't take too much damage in the meantime. But you shouldn't be going into damage, low health anyway, because you should be carrying conventionals around to deal with these little encounters like, a wolves or a bodyguard, so you're not taking as much damage from them.
This is just going to delay the pro. Because if it's a night fight and you Holy Circle out, then the following day, if you're low on health, what are you going to do? Supply. If you're in a small city, what are you going to do? It's just, you're just delaying your whole. Just prepare accordingly, get your health up, and go into there with 2 conventional or something else instead of I'm going to go in the Holy Circle because I'm going to jump out. Well, what is that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think in niche cases that there are ways it could be used, but yeah, it's not top priority. It normally gets ditched. Most of the time, I'll get it, and I'll often, you hear me in commentary, often say, "Oh right, okay, I'll hold on to this for a bit." But if something, it obviously depends on how the supplies go, because it can end up that one hunter's really screwed in terms of items, just doesn't get any good items out. So you want to have this on, but if something really good, much better, like a conventional Heavenly Host comes along, and I'm already full on my slots, I'll ditch Holy Circle. That's fine. So yeah, normally does get ditched, but there are sometimes you can catch Dracula out with it. Yeah. Ooh, right, onto a slightly better one. Knife, best weapon in the game, in the sense that it deals 3 damage, not 2, which is really good, and it cancels fangs. So, that causes some issues for Dracula wanting to bite people. That's why often, I think, I would probably say this in a previous thing, like with blood transfusion and stuff, at least in our meta, it's not often that hunters get bitten. They normally get bites actually by failing Heavenly Host, rather than actually getting bitten the conventional way of mesmerize. I got a mesmerize bite in my last game, and I can't remember the game before that I actually managed to do it. It's normally from heavily hosting, like fangs on heavily host. So this is a really big counter to it. Like knives just countered that really well. As a little strategy, I like having double knife on Mina. It's a really nice combo, so it just makes it really difficult to kill her. And you're doing a lot of damage back to Dracula. Obviously, it doesn't stop claws. So if Dracula plays claws, you absorb the 4 damage as the hunter, and then if you're still alive, then you do 3 damage back. But As long as you're not going to die as the hunter, if you're doing 3 damage to Drac, you'll take the 4 damage, because Dracula can't heal as effectively as the hunters can. It can't do it every day. So it's just a one-off heal, rather than healing every night, potentially. No, I like it. I like Knife. I think it's obviously stops the escape as bat too, which is really, really a really important thing for hunters. If Dracula can break a weapon in a 1v1, then Dracula knows he can just escape his bat for free. Really important to hold on to weapons.
No, I agree. Nothing. I mean, it is what it is. It's a great card to have. You'll rarely see a knife in the discard pile. Put it that way.
Yeah. Oh. If you see a knife in the discard pile as Dracula, you're really happy. Unless the hunter already had like 2 knives.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, yeah, yeah. I think it was a joke in my previous game. Like, Mina had a lot of knives. Like, she hasn't got enough hands for all the knives she's got. But,
Mina scissor hands.
Yeah. Oh, geez, that's a creepy crossover. Yeah. No, it's a nice card. The only thing is, though, it's quite interesting. There's quite a lot of the doesn't stop Saboteur, doesn't stop Rats. Do we care? Probably not. I mean, the only problem might be, I guess, if it's like a high trick Saboteur, it doesn't get rid of the Saboteur, so the next person who walks in is going to get ambushed. But a lot of the time, people don't play that trick. It seems to be more common now that high trick is done with bats. No, I like it. Probably strongest weapon, do we say?
Yeah, well, I mean, 3 damage conventional, yep. Strongest weapon, because again, it doesn't rely on holy bullets kicking off or
That's true. Yeah, you just play it.
In its own right, yeah. And again, if you can get him to waste 2 fangs and still got your 2 knives, that's 6 damage. His fangs have gone, and then it's the hunter's court then. So,
and I'd say,
yep.
If you're the hunter who's mesmerized, it's still doing 2 damage rather than the guns that only do 1 damage. And if you're trying to kill a fucking vampire with 1 damage, it's so fucking slow. Especially
that's when you want to use
one.
Holy Circle to fucking get out and just try and get a stake.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Whereas this, it still does 2 damage, which could be enough. It is more. I think also with Reckless Vampires 2. Because Reckless Vampires like to fang, because they want to try and get the points, and you just play a knife, and you're like, oh shit, now there's vampires left on 1 health, and it's so dangerous then, because it will just takes a punch and it's dead. Nice item. Yeah, it's probably the one that you don't want to discard, unless you end up with all of them on the same hunter. Yeah, definitely, fucking Van Helsing scissor hands or something. Yeah, exactly. So then maybe from the strongest weapon to maybe the weakest, depending on how you view it. Pistol, it does the same damage as a rifle, but the difference is it doesn't cancel escape as bad. I assume that is the reason why it's considered the weaker one.
I would say so, because I think as a Dracula, if you're playing as Dracula, often unless you've no choice and it's in your hand where you've got a shit hand, but how often would you proactively use a plotting? Because you're thinking, well, punch is going to block plotting, escape is going to block plotting. So you're thinking, I might just waste that card. And pistol, you're kind of thinking, well, I won't do it because pistol might get played. And as you say, it's one of those where you've got the same issue if you've got holy bullets with a pistol. You've got to rely on the claws coming off. And to me, I would rather stop escape as bat than plotting.
Yeah.
Because, you've already got 2 out of 3 cards in your default hand that can block plotting. So,
plotting's probably more devastating against hunters like Van Helsing, just because he's got the weakest health, and Mina because 1 bite and then she's dead. And on the stage of the game, that could be really crucial. But
if you've got fast horses and a pistol in your hand, one other, you're fucked anyway. You'd rather have a stronger weapon in your hand, like you say, knife or even rifle. A pistol. So
plotting will probably be played against people who, this comes down to like psychology. If you're against a player who often dodges, then plotting could be more effective. And then you might want to, if you're a player who is often gonna dodge, you might want to cycle pistol in, because Dracula might not expect you to have it. So the fact it counters claws is pretty good. That stops that 4 damage. If it's at night, obviously, if it's during the day, then obviously claws isn't as strong. So it's not bad. But often, if you've got choices between, say, a pistol or a rifle, you're gonna pick the rifle pretty much every time. I guess
Well, I
you
think
go.
that's it. It's that choice. I mean, if you've got a pistol and a rifle in your hand, you're happy because that's what you've been given. If you have the choice, you would punt this. If you've got a rifle, a knife, and a pistol to choose from, you're going to punt the pistol.
Yeah.
Right. Because you'd rather have 2 cards that can counter escape as bat. Because
Yes.
again, depending, and again, like we talk about, it's all contextual about what part of it, what stage is Dracula at, or even the vampires. Does he want to try and hang about and kill? Most of the time he's wanting to try and escape. And if you'd rather have 2 cards that can counter that instead of this one. So
Yeah, I agree. If your weapons, if your weapon, that's the thing. If you want to try and trigger holy bullets, you might keep a pistol, because Dracula might be so fixated on breaking the rifle that they don't then protect themselves from the pistol, and then it could trigger. Obviously, then also if your weapons get very oddly distributed between your hunters, then you might end up with all the rifles on one and then pistol on other, and then it's not a bad thing to have. It's not like oh, you must throw away pistol. No, like having a weapon's good. It counters a lot of the encounters, and it does damage to Dracula if it triggers. But it's just if Dracula knows if Dracula's fighting a group of hunters, especially early in the game where it's not so many rounds of combat, and he knows for a fact there's one that does not have an escape as bat item, then they're just going to escape as bat against that hunter and off they go. So that's the downside to it.
If you have the choice, you'd rather have this in your hand than Holy Circle, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's just
You'd rather do some damage to them,
Then no damage.
To me, if I draw that, it's like, right, okay, I don't need it. Get rid of it. So, and I don't know why. I mean, plotting can do a lot of fucking damage. It stacks as well. It can kill your hunter. So,
it really can, because especially depending on what things you've got.
But I think because you've got punch and escape, you've already got 2 items that can cancel a plotting. So
if you're someone like say Seward and you get plotted, well, who cares? You got like 10,000 weapons in your bag anyway that you can just keep playing, or garlic or whatever. You just keep playing that, so the plotting can never trigger. But if you're against another hunter who only has 1 weapon and you plot, then all you have to do is wait for them to play like a dodge or something, and you can bite them. That's Mina, she dies. Plotting is really powerful, and I think against one of these underrated combat cards. But at the same time, it's just too easy for a hunter to go, oh, I'm going to punch you, and oh shit, now I could have played strength instead and done damage to you or whatever, or anything for that matter. So it's not bad. Pistol's good. It's not terrible. It's definitely good. But if you just compare it to the other two, the fact it doesn't counter escape as bat. But I think that's really important. I think it's really important in the game that not all the weapons counter escape as bat. I don't understand how thematically a knife counters escape as bat, but a pistol wouldn't. But whatever, that's fine. I don't know. Are you chucking the knife after the bat? I don't get it. But thematically, I don't get it. But maybe it would make more sense if you're doing thematically that the pistol would counter escape as bat. So the weapon that does the most damage can't counter escape as bat. Maybe that thematically that would make more sense. I'm not sure, but
I guess then though, if you strength knife, it's more of a victory for Dracula. You're glad to see that knife gone at a knife fight. Oh, like, thank fuck, because now, as you say, I can escape as that. Whereas if you do that and it's a pistol, you're like, right, okay, I've got rid of 1 weapon, great, but they might still have another where I can't escape. Because the whole thing is, again, depending on how Dracula wants to be played, might decide that ideally you want to try and escape. So to me, it would be more of a victory if you get rid of knife and pistol.
Oh, and that's interesting. Then, do you then as a hunter, do you just play pistol early to try to bait out their strength and make the Dracula think, oh great, I can escape as bat now, and then on the escape as bat round, you pull out a rifle that they weren't expecting.
I mean, there's
sacrificial pistol.
Yeah. There's a good point you made again. It's like some hunters, and you all know who you are out there, will dodge first hand. And if you don't deviate from that, it's like, oh well, if I've got plotting, play plotting now. All of a sudden, getting rid of, you're strengthening your hand with what you want, depending how you want that. And that can dictate how you want the combat to go thereafter. And again, this only applies, typically you're one-on-one. So if you've got 2 or 3, then you're really struggling. But if it's a one-on-one, I think that's a useful thing to have on there. But again, to me, it's quite interesting. Yeah, it's quite interesting just thinking about it there. I just always seem to, if I've got it, as I say, keep it. But I'd rather have knife and rifle or knife and heavily hosed, like we've spoken about, than great, I've got 2 pistols. Dracula's in trouble.
I think it's like
damage as well. So it's like
the threat of escape as bat is so huge.
yes.
Obviously there
Especially
are.
with combining wolf forms. So
Yeah, oh fucking hell. Yeah. Yeah. Especially if wolf form is on the trail, then you may. It also depends on where in the map you are. I think that's another thing too. As hunters, like you have to maybe ascertain, like if Dracula escapes his bat in the UK. All right.
yeah.
Oh, cool. You've moved from one port to another port. Oh my god, I'm fucking quaking my boots. But if it's say an escapist bat from Munich, whoa, that's a problem. And if wolf form is in Dracula's hand, is not on the trail, that's a problem. So yeah, it all depends again contextually about what part of the game you're in, what part of the map you're in. Are the hunters close by? Can they capitalize? Are they all having to do so many encounters that escape is about to be really devastating? Bit by bit, as always. So yeah.
Here's another question for us to get wrong, or me to get wrong, you to get right, or somebody to question us and say, why are you guys talking on videos about a game you're meant to love and know? Cagliari, you get into a battle, you draw escape as bat, because there was a game I watched about and Helsing, I don't know if it was your game, landed and bats was played, and obviously Cagliari,
that was mine. Yep.
It was yours, but then when you land, it kicked in.
Yeah, that was weird. I might report that to the devs.
Dracula, you can't do that.
Yes.
You can't escape as bat, but then if you move, it won't then trigger when you land.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, it's just null and void, isn't it? You would exit combat,
which is basically a glorified escape as miss then.
Move anywhere. Yeah. So yeah, it's but again, the issue with that is if that's all you've got in your hand and Aggie's in play, you still take damage, but you don't go anywhere.
Yeah. So, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, don't play it on an island.
No, don't do that. No.
Don't do it if your other trails are on the map as well, because you can't go back to where you were. So
yeah, that's true. Okay, so
pistol just
good,
above,
but not
between garlic, wreath, and crucifix.
No, I put it above. Well, I don't know because I could counter it. This is why it's.
Do you burn a pistol?
Just as often as I burn a crucifix, because the problem is there's more pistols in the deck.
Yeah.
So maybe on that, the version that there's double as many pistols, maybe then crucifix is a smidge. Oh, I don't know. This is why tier listing this is going to be there's not enough to make like a concrete tier list. Pistol is good, but it's not amazing.
Good, but it's not right.
Yeah. Okay. And then we got the rifle. So like the pistols, like Big Brother. So does the same.
It's funny. It's only because of the escape as bat, I think, makes this a much more attractive.
Yeah.
Same damage, same claw counter. And you've got holy bullets you can use well. That's fine, but it's another slot. But that escape as bat, and as you say, that's the huge.
That's the thing.
So here's the thing. If you've fucking hell, I'm asking more questions than actually answering. If you got Aggie in play, or you say for example you're 1-on-1 with Lord Godalming and he's played Lucy's Revenge, then escape as bat is now.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you've got to make one choice whether you cancel Mist, Bat, or Fangs, but then if you've got Lucy's Revenge in your hand, do you need any of them? Would you rather just replace them and have knife and holy, heavily, because you're already going to cancel escape as bat, and if Aggie's there, he's going to take 2 damage. If all right, well, I'll let you escape, 2 damage. So
yeah, but then I think a lot depends on, I suppose, what else has happened in the combat, because you can only cancel the escape as bat or mist once. If you only have one weapon, say a rifle or a knife, and Dracula breaks it, it's like, oh well, then I'll just wait to get out of this combat. And if the only thing that if Dracula has to take 2 damage to escape his bat, is that a worthwhile trade? I mean, probably. Again, depends on where in the map. It depends on where you are on the stage of the game. Do you have many options to get out, or are you just kind of surrounded anyway? Can you wolf form immediately after it? Is that to move? So essentially, you're taking 3 damage to move 4 spaces. Is that worth it?
Yeah.
It could well be, but then at the same time, maybe it isn't. Who knows? Who knows? So yeah, that's actually very interesting how just that small little icon difference changed from plotting to escape as bat, and suddenly rifle is like really strong and pistol is like meh, ditch it. That's just really interesting to me.
I think there'll be players out there that would have pistol over rifle because of that. Because if you've, depending on the Dracula player, if they play plotting and they're not adverse to it, and you play it, and again going back to what we've spoken about, if they play plotting and you've got garlic, you do no damage to them, and they've got a choice to get a stronger card. So, you know, there is that. They could double it up. They can stop you escaping. They can damage you effectively an extra turn.
Yep. Or they can try and get a bite, which you can't block, depending on if you play the combat right.
Then if you've got punch and a pistol and you play them both and they try plotting, which I've seen a few times kind of back to back just to throw the hunter off, because usually they'll do an aggressive and then dodge, you can then, you know, with punch and pistol, you've got rid of their hosts, they're plotting. So you're like, all right, I can just run. No, I think, fuck that, no, pistol is where it is. I'd rather always have rifle and knife because of the escape as bat. That's more dangerous to me. You don't want to get Drac away and I've managed to stop him plotting me, because again, you know, is he going to manage to damage you or not? I don't know.
Yeah, I think
enough to kill you, and then you've got great strength. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you're not going anywhere. Dracula would rather escape a tight spot than stay where you are and stand your ground with the risk of three other hunters joining tomorrow.
Yeah,
it's just not worth it.
Unless there's like a really obvious thing where it's like Dracula has a fog in hand and they know the hunters don't have forewarned and they can easily get to a port next day, so they don't need to escape as bat because they can bait hunters in and whatever. But yeah, it's all contextual. I think it's one of these things though where there are clearly items which are always very useful, but if you are able to combine them with some of, I'll say the word weaker items, the less conventional items, let's say, if you can just mix them in bit by bit, Dracula won't expect them, and that's when you can do cool stuff. You can just randomly cancel a plotting with pistol, and just by mixing it in, because Dracula's going to be so fixated on the idea, right, they're going to stop the escapers back with rifle or knife, or they're going to have Heavenly Host to try and do a lot of damage to me, but they might not expect the pistol or the garlic, and then that's when things might start to unravel. So you need that. That's where the unpredictability of the hunters come in.
That's a fair point. Because again, claws at night, they've only got to hit you twice, and they're pretty much going to kill Van Helsing, or they're going to bring everybody else down to 1 or 2 health. So if you can block claws at night, then great.
Yeah.
And as you say, most of the time, if they're kind of looking at thinking having knives and heavenly hosts, and then Dracula might be more inclined to play claws at night. So if you have got a counter, but that's what the rifle, I would still, I think I still rate because of the bat. That's the only reason it's slightly above it. I mean, they're both, 2 damage, and they can both get done out with a strength anyway. Maybe the other thing about the rifle is that obviously it does, as the rifle and the pistol do cancel rats. They contribute towards your wolves.
Saboteur would also get removed from it.
So like traffic location, for layers. Again, you can only carry, unless you're sued, you can only carry 3, and if you've got a fast horse and a stake, then you're not really going to be that happy if you've got a pistol sitting there.
True. No, that's right. I think the other thing too is just like to make it clear, like, it sounds good that pistol and rifle together both do 2 damage, but if you're mesmerized, that's 1 damage. The same as punching.
Yeah.
Like it feels terrible, especially when you're in 1v1s against new vampires. Like, this new vampire's never gonna die, and they're just gonna escape, and you got to do it again. You're like, oh my god, you gotta team up. Then it just becomes really awkward. So
you delay a hunter to team up. So
yeah, it's just asking for trouble. So yeah, I think there's clearly like a tier here where maybe like garlic. I was gonna say maybe a challenge for we got a match tomorrow night. I know this could be released really out of sequence, but we got a match tomorrow night. So maybe I should say you a challenge. You got to try and beat me with pistol and garlic reef.
Fuck you. Yeah, that'll work. Imagine if I do though.
I know, that's the thing, right? That'd be also. We'll have to put like a little footnote in here if you manage to do it or not. So there's clearly like a tier here. We got like knife and Heavenly Host at the top. Garlic reef clearly at the bottom. with things like Holy Bullets, because the Holy Bullets is contextual upon the idea. The other thing with Holy Bullets I want to make clear is like, Mesmerize does not affect Holy Bullets. So it's 3 damage no matter what. So even if the rifle, the pistol only does 1 damage, the Holy Bullets will do 3 after it's not affected. But they're clearly the bomb because it's like a very passive thing, potentially Holy Circle at the bottom as well. And then you got other stuff like Garlic, Pistol, Crucifix, which are kind of just, they're in the mix. And you could have 1 or 2 of them floating around. It can cause some issues for Dracula, but they're not the things you prioritize necessarily. But then maybe if hunters become really predictable, then it's maybe easier to counter. So that's why having that mix is, I don't know. It all depends on how the items come out. I've had it before. I've had items all, like, the same type of item all shoved onto the same hunter. I'm like, oh well, okay then. But it's only with crap items. I've never had it with really good. No, I had one once. I think I had ended up with 4 guns on Sword, I think. But it's normally bad items. I had
times where you've got like 3 stakes on Van Helsing and stuff.
I've had 3 stakes on Van Helsing. I have had 3 dogs on Mina, and I've had 3. And when I played the game in real life, I had 3 garlic reefs on Van Helsing. So it's always funny with the crap items, but yeah. Okay, so we've clearly got a bit of a list there. So we're in more or less agreement with things, which is to be good.
Yeah, I think so. That's good. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. Anything else before we go on to non-combat?
No, nope, happy with that.
Cool. Okay, well, we'll do an alphabetical order again. So we got the animals first. We got the dogs. So it's kind of basically an encounter. Was it? I was going to say a count is a counter encounter card, but that sounds so weird to say. It counters Dracula encounters basically. Depending if you're ambushed or you search it. Search is actually better because you don't discard dogs, so dogs just sit there forever. It combats rats, saboteur, spy, and wolves. I still find funny with the wolves because wolves are fucking bigger than dogs. I just still think my thematic thing is the dogs and the wolves become friends and they just go off into the forest together. I don't get it, but anyway.
They're from the same canine family, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Let's turn on these owners.
Exactly. Planet of the not Planet of the Apes, Planet of the Canines or something. Yeah. So, but obviously, at least in our meta, these are used to combat the hide trick because it used to be common. Maybe not so common now with the league. I'm not sure. It'd be kind of just. I don't have any statistics on it. Saboteur would often be played as the hide card on the first vampire to try and guarantee it to mature. But if you've got dogs, you cancel it. But I don't know, that hasn't been played out. It's kind of going out of favor. A lot of people are playing bats now because bats, dogs don't counter bats. So yeah, it's kind of one of these things. You might have it in your hand, but as soon as you realize high trick has been used, you're get rid of the dogs, get rid of them. There are some times it can be a bit annoying where you ambush and say I've got dogs. You're oh fucking really? But at the same time, you're kind of thinking, oh well, you got dogs. That's one fewer weapon that you have. So.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, it's one of those, if you don't have dogs, arguably, except for spy, you could take 2 damage, okay. The most you can take there is 4 with the wolves if you don't have conventional weapon, but again, you should have 1, so you're only going to take 2 damage from wolves. Saboteur, you delay, but if you jump on it during the day, they can ambush you because unless you search at night, but then you're delayed at night. Nah, spy's a bad one because again, if you haven't got a conventional weapon, you're revealing all your hand to the hunter. So that's out of them. And again, it's crazy how this game flips and flops all about the place because it used to be years ago that spy you would just ditch because it's fucking spy shit. All of a sudden, not all of a sudden, I think people are either becoming cute to it or they're actually changing their strategy and tactics to work it into there. That I think because the fast horses has become such a huge thing that everyone's after it, spy's the best counter for that. Yeah. So, again, yeah, you're right. I mean, there was a period where, well, not everybody. I mean, some people would have dogs all the time because it'll counter that hide. But then again, if you've got fast horses and dogs and a stake.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You're fucked if it's nah. So, again, looking at the discard pile, you wouldn't be surprised to see 4 dogs, garlic wreaths, holy circles, it'd be thrown in there because, again, the danger of these 4 that it can counter I'd rather risk that and have a more useful card in my hand, because most of these you're going to deal with, or you're going to be over it by the next day. So yeah, spy is the only one. That's the only issue.
I'd agree with that. I mean, saboteur, if you're searching at night, being delayed during the day is a bit. It could be. But then, like most Draculas, at least. Okay, the way I play Dracula is obviously saboteur often gets ditched into layers and things. So saboteur is not a very. It's not a card that sees a lot of gameplay. But I honestly like. If the hunters search something, yeah, it's annoying they get delayed during the day. At the same time, it's like, oh, thank fuck, it wasn't a vampire. Okay, happy days. So, you'll probably take it. I agree. Spy, we talked about it in our Dracula encounter guide. Plug, watch the Dracula encounter conversation. Spy, I think it's very underrated, and I think it's definitely one that's seeing a lot more play now, which is great. I love it. I was also going to say, if you look at the animation of like the dog card, they've got really floppy jaws. What the fuck?
Oh yeah, they're all like Terence and Philip, aren't they? They're all just like you wouldn't be worried. I mean, they've got no grip strength whatsoever in their bike. You know,
Yeah,
the bike
no.
must be like an IPS. You're like, okay,
What is that?
And there's like Jack Russells. Do you know what I mean? You're like, fuck. All right, I get it. Jack Russells you would send down for rats and things. That's fine. But
Against
you know, if
wolves?
you're a Jack Russell and you're a saboteur, you'd be like, fuck off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Just fucking. You just pick it up and bowl out of the room, right? It also looks like.
Yeah, just fucking boot. There was one good point made by the illustrious Texan Monsieur Morris, which was a good point in one of his games about this. I think if this was an action, dogs would become much higher. That dogs can counter fog, because effectively dogs could guide you through the fog where you need to go. Now that would be a kind of, all of a sudden, if you've only got 2 forewarned but you don't have them, and you're going to a coastal, you might think, oh, right.
Jesus Christ, we don't need to make the hunters even more overpowered. Oh my god, like what?
I know, but that was one of those where there'd have to be a downside kind of thing to that, where it might be a case of if it's ambushed, light your forewarned, But again, because again in the book, when they're chasing it, that's why they have the dogs. The dogs lead them to Drac, and it's not about it's because of the foggy night in London. It's a case of the dogs will guide us to it with their scent. But in this, it's like if you're fucked, you're fucked. So it was an interesting point you made that that would be if they had that. As you say, you don't want them. You don't want every card to be great for the hunters. So.
I think that's kind of intriguing because again it's the same thing. Like you're having to carry stuff, and what if Dracula doesn't play? And after this happens in our games, Dracula doesn't play fog until late game. Are you really going to carry around dogs all game?
And there's only 2 fog, and normally behind the veil takes one of them. So
yeah, funny that. Also, I'm just going to say to go back onto the animation, it looks like one of those dogs is humping the other one. By the way.
Yeah, and that's the one that's this one whose mouth is going a bit strange.
It's clearly something going on there. Yeah, interesting. do they look just as like?
Baby, ain't nothing but mammals, so let's do it like they do.
Like, do they look? I can't remember how they look on the physical board game.
Well, they don't look like that, fucking for a start. At least, at least it's just a fixed picture, so they look a bit more deadly rather than just 3 yapping fucking chihuahuas.
The fact that we've just spoken like just as much time about the animation than the actual card kind of makes us realize how shit this card is. So let's move on.
But again, it was funny because, like you say, when the game was, everyone was using hide and saboteur, and blah blah. It was everyone kept dogs. All of a sudden, everyone's like, have a dog on you because that stops it. But it just shows the game, not so much the game, but the players evolve with the game, and all of a sudden, fashions come in and out, and trends come in and out, and you adapt it and overcome it, and then something else comes, and there'll be something else in the future that all of a sudden they'll be like, oh wow. You just start using it for a period because that's how the game's evolved, and then something else. So it's great. But at the moment, because very few people do the hide, it's you just get rid of it.
But remember, then the argument is if Dracula players, instead of using hide trick, if they just valued saboteur more as a slowing tactic to delay the hunters, and if the hunters, because I think there's like 3, is it 3 of them in the deck? I should really know how many saboteurs there are. It's either 2 or 3. If they keep using them, then the hunter's like, oh shit, delayed again. Oh my god, it might come back into fashion a little bit to have a dog here or there, but then it's always typically on the wrong fucking person. But then again, you can't carry everything, and that's the problem because we're so fixated on you must have fast horses.
Yeah.
That really does. That is a huge, and I admitted this right in the fast horses guide. Like that's a huge limitation as to what items you can carry. So if you start saying like, yeah, if you got fast horses and dogs, I mean, Dracula would be fucking happy if you're running around with fast horses and dogs. If that's all you've got, great. Then and then you only got one weapon. Well, I can work around one weapon or one heavily host or whatever. So yeah, it's just the way the meta's going. Someone might come along and say, no, we're not going to do fast horses. We're going to flip it and we're going to do something completely different. We'll do it this way. We'll just rely on chartered carriage and sense of emergency to do it, and hunters will just have to be more proactive. Then it might work. Who knows? Who knows? Fast horses we don't have to talk about much, just because obviously I've got a whole guide on it. But anything in particular that you want to say about this, or?
I'd probably say I'm probably less obsessed is the wrong word. Less keen to have them. If I get them, okay. But I'm of that opinion that you just mentioned there. I'm probably more inclined that I'd rather have a handful of, a stake and 2 weapons than fast horses, because again, you've got to get the economy, and there's been many a time when I've watched people and they're going through the pile trying to get the last white one. If you don't, you're restricted, and if you jump on it and you lose it, that's fast horses gone. It's one less, as you said there, which is important, it's one less weapon item slot, which again, even if Dracula starts in Baltica with limited rail, at some point they're going to have to move west or somewhere else about it, and you can get round to them, and again, it's just about where you want to place the hunters. I shouldn't say too much because we're playing tomorrow night and I'm hunters, so I'm not giving it. I shouldn't say too much about this because you'll be like, right, doesn't use fast horses. But I can see the benefit of them, of course I can, and they're great because you can combo up and blah blah blah.
Yeah. And the flexibility of movement, assuming your horse economy is actually set up correctly, the flexibility of movement is just ridiculous. The fact you can move
again,
potentially up to.
Great.
Yeah.
If you haven't got the items to then, there's been many games that I've been involved in, you've been involved in, and others, and they'll fast horse somewhere and go, fuck, Dracula's there. I'd rather land on them by using a 2 ticket. I have 3 items, 3 weapons, and go, oh fuck, Dracula's here. Lucky I've got a knife, a rifle, and a heavenly host. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a reason why there's only 3, so they don't OP every hunter that all 4 can.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Just been,
that's
4, it would have just been
that's a really good game design. There's 3, not 4. The fact you got to have 1 hunter without, and I know I said in my guide for them, I like it that Van Helsing doesn't have it, and I've got my reasons for that. But sometimes, oh well, tough, Van Helsing's got it, or sometimes you end up with 2 on the same hunter, and then you're sitting there going, right, do I have time to trade these? And then you have to make really awkward decisions, like does one hunter run around with 2 fucking fast horses for a few turns before they get them all to meet up? Maybe, maybe not. And it all just depends on, you've got to be adaptable to that and just work around
That's
it.
The thing is, I mean, if Dracula's in the UK, you don't need fucking fast horses because your rail tickets will get you where you need to go.
Yep.
And you would rather ditch that and have 3. And again, anywhere sort of Central Europe, you can pretty much get to it, a 3 and a 2. So, it's only when you're getting to sort of, your Valonas, your Sophias, these kind of areas that. And again, it's not just that, I understand. You can also have 3 hunters on 1 straight away if you get the right roll. If you do renewed vigor, you can move 3 spaces. There's countless advantages to them, which you covered in your video. But again, it's just one of those that I'm not devastated if I don't draw fast horses. If I've got 3 weapons, I'm like, hey, I'm happy with that. Instead of, I know there's all, the first thing is get fast horses, get the 3 white ones out. Like, now we can start planning the rest of it. But fast horses just get you to Dracula. They don't necessarily help you defeat him.
True. I think that's the thing. Like, you're trying to work out as hunters, what do you try to get into multiple 1v1s, or even if your individual combat strength is lower, but you can get a greater number of them onto the same space, that might be enough. And that's the way you're trying to balance these 2 things. And I'm completely the same. Sometimes these fast horses are buried at the bottom of the item deck, and you're just gonna have to function without them. But the great thing is with it, even if you plan to have fast horses and you're sorting out the economy, even if you haven't drawn any, then suddenly you realise, oh shit, I need a 3/2, I need a 2 yellow. Well, you can draw one, and the good chance is you're going to draw one out of the deck because you've set up the economy in such a way you're going to get good tickets. So you can just get one at night. Oh look, there's my yellow 2 or whatever it is I need. Right, off I go. And then you can go. And then once you get the fast horses out, then your economy is more or less set up to do it already. So yeah.
I guess the counter with that is that going back to what we spoke about with Spy and we did in the Dracula videos, because more people are using fast horses and it's part of their setup, the Spy does become relevant, because if they have got fast horses and heavenly hosts and a stake, then I'm going to get to see every card you've got in there, and your tickets go. And if you've spent a long time trying to get, again, if you've got 2 white ones, but you don't really want 2 white ones on 1 hunter, but again, sometimes that's what happens. If Godalming draws 2 white ones, you're stuck with it, then you lose them. They go back into the pool. So then what do? You've got a fast horses, which is kind of redundant, or you're just going to be hoping, keep searching, and every time you're searching at night can be the difference between not trading, you're not healing,
and
you're not supplying.
You could get them first time, or you could spend a whole week searching for them, and then Dracula's just halfway across the map by now.
So I think you could have got their uncharted carriage, So I get it. I've just never been a kind of. It's just never been in my kind of gameplay psyche that I need to get fast horses. I know it's in a lot of others, and it works, and it's a great card. It's just, it's just how people play the game, is it? And I found that there are other ways. With your sense emergency, your excellent weathers, your chartered carriages, you can get to them, or again, you can kind of herd Dracula into an area where it's easier to get around via rail. And if you don't have it, you don't have it. But again, I'd rather, again, it's a slot that you're taking out that you're going to replace it. You've only got 2 others left, and beginning of the game you're going to have stake, which is fine. But if it's at the end of the term, your stakes are burnt, you've got fast horses and Drax laying down vampires, I'd rather have 3 weapons on it than fast horse and something else, But I get it, card. So if you like it, crack on. But
you can't carry everything.
But if you draw that white one because you haven't managed it, and you think. Because I think there's a game you and I played. I think we were tag teaming. It was a case of you just didn't move because you didn't have the white one. It's like, fucking. What's the point of fast horses? It's just being. The irony is not lost. You're going fucking nowhere because you're just spending trying to find 1 white one. Just fucking ditch it and move on.
I've seen that in the league. I don't know. Obviously, I've not known what the hunters have had, but I've had spies I've put down, and the hunters have just decided, oh well, fuck it. You can see all my stuff then. Because they can't be bothered, depending on where they are and whatever, having to go through all the malarkey of getting a weapon. It's going to take them too long, and obviously if the item deck's not set up correctly, they may not get the weapon and they're losing lots of time. They'll just go, alright fine, I'll just sacrifice maybe 2 bad tickets, maybe 1 white one, in the hope I'll get it back out again. If I have to keep rolling, then I'll just keep rolling then. If the horse dies. I think it's about being adaptable. I think that's that's the big thing with the hunters. You have to just, same with Dracula, but like with hunters too, just adapt to what you've got and take every decision as it comes up. Don't go into the game thinking, right, okay, I'm going to have fast horses on these 3 hunters, I'm going to have these 3 things. Nah, because it won't come out that way. And how you interact with it, encounter is going to be different. How you fight Dracula is going to be different every time. So just go bit by bit. I had it in a game. Was that when I was playing? I don't know who I was against. I think it was the game against Bugs, but I was Hunters, and I remember revealing him in Marseille, and I had to move Godalming by rail to get there because I was like, well, I haven't got my horses yet. Well, fuck it, I'm gonna have to deal with this vampire, so I'm gonna have to go and rail down. So you just have to do stuff. You can't sit around waiting forever. You have to go. Maybe take the piss. I think if it's a friendly game, fine, do what you like. But if we're playing in a competitive sense, if we're playing properly, quotes, you just have to be adaptable. And if you don't have horses, tough. Get your tickets. Get 1 good ticket on the person who needs it, and then off you go, and it's fine. So
Especially if Jack's been revealed and you're waiting 3 days to get a ticket, and as you said, that's in 3 locations away. it's like you're just handicapping it because you can't even get your guys to it. But again, if nobody used fast horses or it wasn't as popular as it currently is, then obviously that would have a knock-on effect where Dracula would burn a spy card. So therefore, it's like, Drac's only playing spy because it's a necessity, because it's a case of, right, well, this will concern you with, you throw down 2 spies, and if they burn off a weapon on the first one, go, fuck it, I'll burn it and stock up later, move to the next location, get hit again, then you're, right, okay, now I'm going to see what you've got. And again, in some games, especially more so for the events, you want to see what events they've got rather than items. I mean, it helps, but they've got a 1 or even 2 white ones, and that's what you want to see. That just burns it. And then again, fast horses becomes redundant, because what do? Do they risk chasing you and burning it, or do they just sit and start trying to go over it all over again? So like the game I had tonight, both fast horses were burnt consecutively because they played and a white one was drawn.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like,
Bugs had the same thing against me. 2 white ones gone. Yeah.
Well, that was revealed with the spy, because he'd lost one with spy, so he was just like, I'll just carry on.
Right.
And both of them got burnt, so it's like, right, well that worked. And then all of a sudden, because you haven't, and this is the other side of it, because everyone's kind of, bar one hunter, everyone's trying to get that horse economy that everyone goes on about. If you lose 2 of your 3 horses, like, I need to train tonight and get a rail ticket, like a 3-2 or a 2-2, because typically what's going to be in your hand is a 1-1 or a white one, or and then all of a sudden, if you've got chartered carriage, it's like, shit, I can't even use that to get there because I've not got the right tickets. So all of a sudden, mid-game, you've got to then just go, shit, do I? Oh, right, okay.
No, but that's why, like I was saying earlier, like, if you set up horse economy, but you suddenly realise, I need a good rail ticket here because I don't have fast horses, or because I want to use chartered carriage or whatever, you can just do one ticket thing at night, and you should get the type of ticket that you want. You might not maybe a 3-2, not a 2, a yellow 3 or a yellow 2, maybe not, but you can definitely get a yellow 2 ticket. And then you're like, right, okay, this is fine. I can now use it, or I can use chartered carriage with it, or whatever. So yeah, it's kind of weird. You're rigging the deck in a way that you will move well with fast horses, and then you can just do one rail, and you'll be able to railway one. Now the problem is, and I've had this in games where, especially with Van Helsing, because I advocate that Van Helsing doesn't have fast horses, but then you can get into awkward situations where you want to get Van Helsing into position by rail. So you rail somewhere and then go, right, I need to rail the next day, I need to get a ticket. Oh shit, I want to do a trade tonight as well. And you're like, now what do I do? Do I trade or do I get ticket? Whereas if you're doing by fast horses on Van Helsing, you can just trade at night all the time. So there's maybe there's an argument, maybe Van Helsing should have fast horses. I don't know. So I don't know. I rate Van.
That's funny as well that you say, because even if somebody, if people in a situation where Van Helsing needs to trade and he also needs a rail, well, trade during the day. I mean, it's not against the rules. Rather than kind of, as you say, at night time going, shit, I need to make one choice. Trade during the day. Do what you need to do during the day. Take a rail ticket during the day if that's going to benefit you in the long run. Don't sit and think, well, I can't do that during the day, because you shouldn't really. Again, you got to be adaptable and versatile in this. You can't sit and think, well, that's how I always do it. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck there. But I can see why Van Helsing wouldn't need the fast horses as such, because he's typically trading and passing out the cards to the people that need them. So therefore, yeah, I get the point. 3 on the other 3 would be beneficial. I mean, just looking at it, there's no, and again, it does, as you say, it tallies up. Renewed vigor, 3 fast horses. It could be.
You can get halfway across the map at that time, especially with chartered carriage. But then again, it all depends on how individual players approach it. I'll going back onto that thing with Van Helsing, I'll do a day and night trade to get something across. I'll do it. If I realize, right, this card is really beneficial, I will sacrifice Van Helsing's movement and doing supplies. If that means I can get the card from one hunter to another in one day, I'll do it. That's fine. I've never been against it. If it needs to be done, go for it. I think that's the thing.
It. I mean, if I've got wax cylinders on Van Helsing, then of course I'll be going straight across the sword.
Of course you would. Of course you would. I don't know if you realised, or maybe it's been some of my other recordings. I've been putting in some snide comments about our event tier. That event tier list has actually been really funny, seeing how they've played out in the league. And I have, if has anything come up like Aggie or
Yeah.
Wax Cylinders, and there's been some snide comments in your direction.
I know,
So.
I've just said, yeah, I'm sure Ross is thinking about it. I was like, oh, yeah, fucking hell, let's see. And then I can hear you saying it through gritted teeth. Yeah, that's a good card, yeah.
Right, last one on the list. A stake.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, you tell me what you're going. Your thought. I mean, well,
I
what
mean,
it does.
obviously,
It's pretty
yeah.
pivotal to the whole game. So.
Absolutely. I mean, really good item in the fact that you can just take a fighter vampire and just go like, nope, I can't be asked fighting you at night or even during day. But realistically, you're going to be staking it at night, right? Because then you can then move out on day action or you can supply or whatever. So the fact you don't even have to go to combat. I mean, you have to go into combat initially if the Dracula player ambushes you, of course. So that's great. The fact you can just kill it and it's done. Obviously, it's good for getting rid of an aristocratic or a hoax as well, because of the fact that then you don't get delayed, so you don't lose a potentially then a day action the next day. But obviously, then it's kind of like this kind of game of cat and mouse here. Like, as the hunters, do I use? Because you don't know until you search. You have to activate the stake before you search. So you have to think, right, am I staking a normal vampire, like aristocratic, or am I staking a fighter? And you obviously, if you burn an aristocratic with a stake, you'll be happy. But at the same time, you're like, oh shit, because it could just be the next encounter down the trail is a fighter vampire, and I haven't got a stake to deal with it. So it's kind of like this little game that you're playing here. You can do some really cool stuff where you can like bait hunters to use all their stakes early on aristocratics, and then you got fighter vampires later on, and they're like, oh shit, all the stakes are fucking in the discard pile, and I can't get them out in time, and that can cause issues. But just as in terms of what it does, obviously it doesn't benefit you against any other type of encounter. But for what it does, like the main way that Dracula is going to get points, obviously in our meta, because of, especially the fact that stakes are so popular, vampires don't normally mature. But normally in a normal Fear of Dracula setting, how does Dracula get points? Through vampires maturing. And in fact, you got one thing that just goes, nope, we can't do this. But obviously then the balance is there's 4 of these. Often you end up with 2 of them on the same hunter. Do you want 2 stakes on the same hunter? I mean, normally no. Especially again with whole fast horses, you don't be running around with fast horses and 2 stakes. That's just asking for an ass kicking. But also, if you think about it, there's 3 aristocratics, 3 reckless, 2 new. So that's 8 plus 2 hoax. Now I know obviously the encounter deck moves more slowly than the item deck in theory, as long as the hunters are supplying enough, but still, that's 10 encounter cards and there's only 4 states. So just depending on how those encounters come out for Dracula, and that's where the skill in Dracula comes in, how you line up your trail, you can cause a lot of problems for the hunters. If they ditch stakes, or if you see it in the discard pile, they're like, oh my god, they've already discarded 2 stakes and I haven't even interacted with everything. Alright, fucking excellent. And you start putting down vampires everywhere, and you start causing lots of problems for the hunters then. They're going to have to start deciding, can we fight all of these things? Do we let some of them mature? But then that's what you want. As Dracula, you want to be forcing hunters into awkward decisions where they're having to give up lots of points or whatever, or potentially killing hunters and whatever. It's all around good, but obviously, you know, it has its caveats. It's not a combat item. It doesn't stop other encounters. You have to search later, so you know you could get ambushed and you could die from the ambush or get really hurt before you use the stake. It just depends. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with all. I mean, it's pivotal in the book. It's pivotal in the game. It's what you need. It's a nice, easy. Saves time and delay and potential health. The only thing about it, which again Dracula players can identify, is if you look at them and they've got fast horses, 2 other items, and in the combat screen it's 1 weapon, you're going to have to guess that they've pretty much got a stake. So therefore your strategy changes, where it's more about, right, well, they're going to try and escape when you can. You want to just do, basically be redundant to the fact that you're going to lose your reckless or your new vampire. So just try and do as much damage as you can. Don't be all, you want to try and mesmerize or try and get a plotting ideally, but even if you can get 4 damage on them before they escape,
that's pretty
then
good.
it's 4 damage. you're decent for that. They're going to stake you at night instead of heal, and then the next day they could be moving on, and they might think, well, I'm okay. I've only lost 4 health. But then again, if you've got another vamp or you've got something on another trail where, they've now lost their stake, so they've only got 2 items. So now the plan is, do they supply? Do they heal? Do they, So it does. Yes, it's got. You've dealt with especially a new vampire, or again, just saves half the battle with that.
Oh yeah, because that's so annoying. Even though they don't give as many points, Jesus, they're so annoying to kill. Solo, it's so tough.
And it's a time process. You're delayed. You could be fighting them fucking 2 days, 3 days if you haven't got the right stuff to kill them with. So, I think I don't know. Again, this is another one. Can you think there's an option? Is there not? Like your dog's that you can just click the cross that you don't use the stake.
Yes, you can. Yeah. You can choose not to activate the stake. No, you don't. You don't have to, but you have. You can't see the vampire and then go, all right, I'm staking it. Because it clearly says reveal this card before you search, but you don't have to show the stake.
No.
Yeah,
so if for example, if you use going back, if you use wax cylinders for deduction and you see there's an aristocratic vampire somewhere, and you can decide whether you just want to become delayed,
but you
or
never.
Do you want to delay yourself and keep the stake for a killer? So.
I would absolutely say if you know it's a host on aristocratic, I know the delay is bad, but then if you also think about it right. I'm making the assumption here it's a night delay into a day. It's a day delay. You're searching at night, but then if you try to think about it, then okay, I'm losing a day action. But if I burnt the stake and then I know there's a fight a vampire further down the line, I could lose more actions trying to kill that vampire potentially, or trying to get another stake. Unless you've got another hunter nearby who has a stake and they can jump on and kill it instead, then great. But if you've got your hunters spread out or having to do different things, often that happens if Dracula's suddenly gone to sea and you're like, oh shit, now I've got encounters on one side, Dracula's heading the other, so I've got to have to split up. Like in the game that I was watching with you and Warecraft, where you had all those vampires to deal in the east, and the two hunters with stakes were sitting in reserve. You're in a really tight spot there. And you had to try and then think, oh shit, like, how do I deal with these? Do I try and deal with them, with heavenly hosts or whatever? And that's when things start becoming ropey, because then you just keep risking that combat will go against you. This is just a nice, simple, kill it. You could also do things like, often what happens is, Draculas will often use an aristocratic at the beginning of the game, and they'll save their fighter vampires for later. So then maybe hunters, if they're trying to search that vampire, they won't use the stake, and then maybe you could bait them into using, fighting a reckless at night or something. There's things you can do maybe. You feel bad, obviously, as a Dracula player if you just let them stake for free and you haven't ambushed them. But there are things like you saw me in that game I played against Bugs where I realised, oh right, he's used the stake on that hunter, and there's no other hunters nearby, and there's another vampire down the line. I'm not going to ambush you. I'll let you search that at night, and then you've got trouble, because you're like, oh shit, I could be bitten, I could die, or my weapons could be broken, and there's things you can do. I don't think it's as, we talked about this in the Dracula encounter video, I don't think it's as straightforward as, you must ambush every time. There's be ways, if you don't know what the hunters have, then yeah, go for it, because you can gain information from the combat screen and stuff. But I think, if you know the hunter clearly doesn't have a stake, and they're vulnerable, then you can maybe do sneaky things by not ambushing. It just depends.
And I think it's good as well, like you say, depending on what part of the game you can have it, where if it's at the beginning, then you know that they've got one less weapon, so therefore, you can throw down rats, things that do damage, but just pick away at it,
Yeah.
And then, if they do jump on a reckless, you ambush them, but they've only got 4 health, then all of a sudden it's a bit easier for you to try and damage, or even if you do all that. So I think another thing that's probably worth noting for the stake as well is that vampire lair can be used with it, so that's another
that's
option.
Also true, yeah, but then obviously that's a stake being used for vampire lair, not on a vampire.
And you still get delayed, but then again, depending on what part of the game it is, it might do no difference. If you're sitting on 12, it does nothing, but if you're sitting on 8, it can be the difference between you winning and losing it. So I like that. It's got another multi-purpose instead of just... But again, like you said, if I jump on hoax and I search it and I get delayed, I'm not like, oh shit. It's like, all right, I'll just get delayed.
And
You
you
know,
stop the and you stop the host
yeah,
maturing,
exactly.
which is bloody good. So yeah, I think that's the thing. That's another thing as Dracula you can do. As Dracula, you're all about this balancing out of like how do these we're talking about encounters now, but so you can see how they're linked in with items. Do I throw all my vampires at the beginning? Probably not, because if one matures, they wipe all of them. But then do you throw them all down mid game? But obviously, then as hunters, you feel really bad. You know that the vampires will come eventually, but if you're running around the whole game with stake and one weapon, and you're taking more and more damage from wolves and bodyguards and all this sort of stuff, then it could get really rough. And then they use their stakes late, and then they jump onto Drac. It's like, well, you got a little health, and you've just burned your stakes, so you got nothing else, right? I can now try and have my way with you. Everything's all intertwined.
Sometimes,
This is
well,
the problem with this. Yeah.
yeah, and sometimes Dracula doesn't get the hand that he wants. You could be waiting to the end of the first week to get vampire. You might have aristocratic and then a handful of shit. So you might just play what you've got, hoping to replace that. But the hunters could be thinking, all right, you must lay this down. But you're playing what you've got, and it might be at the end of the game you've already used all your vampires at the beginning of the game. So now you're like, right, well, okay, now I can use wolves and rats, because if they're going to hold on to stake, thinking there's another one out there, or they've miscounted what's been used, then you can start again chipping away at them with what they have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's reason why there's 4 in the deck, because I think the game makes it out that every hunter should have a stake in their hand.
Yeah.
Just purely for that. And again, it's up to the hunters to work out what's more important. Do they want a stake and 2 weapons, or a fast horse, a stake and a weapon? And then you just decide what you want to do after that. But yeah, I think 4 in the deck, 4 hunters. Game kind of pushes you to have a stake, and it doesn't kill Drac. Obviously, I don't have any betting on him, but the whole point is it's not Drac that's really going to win the game. It's his minions and his maturing effects that are going to win it for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so very interesting. I think I don't know if those of you who are still watching after all this, I don't know if you've learned anything, but basically the whole point of it is like you can't carry everything. So it's all about what you need at certain points in the game, and also just what you value personally in general. You might suddenly disagree with us on certain things, and that's fine. It's just, yeah, you can't carry everything. It's all that kind of that resource management aspect of the game. It's the same for events, but events are slightly different because a lot of the events are just burnt instantly when you obtain them. And there's like a clear hierarchy where this items sort of shuffle out a bit more. If you burn a knife early, well, you might well get that knife back again later. So it's just more, what is it you need at that moment, and just being adaptable, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that's it. Yeah, because they burn through the decks quick. If you get rid of it, if you lose it because you don't want it, then if you get it back, chances are another hunter might draw it and you can trade with them, or you just burn through the deck and try and get back what you can. But normally, you'd like to think that you're trading or you're discarding an item card for a better item card.
Yes.
Or another item card that's better suited to perhaps the situation or your strategy. So a better item card doesn't always necessarily mean more powerful. It might mean that depending what strategy you have or a tactic you've got, or Dracula, it might be that a holy circle is what you need because you've got a plan. Don't be afraid to discard them. That's what they're there for. Pick and choose what you need. And
I'd also argue, like, I've seen certain hunters where they'll be like, oh, I don't want supply now because I like all the items that this character has. I'm just like, okay, like, but I want it for the event. That's my mentality. For me, it's like, if I've got Godalming, say, because Godalming draws 2, so it's more likely with him. If he's sitting there with good items, and suddenly I draw, like, a double knife or, like, double rifle or something, alright, I'll discard the 2 rifles. Like, I don't care. If it means I could get a really good event on top, for me, that's far more valuable. Because, like, items are, like, almost, like, dispensable. You can rotate them out. An event is an event, and that's the thing I think the event is the thing. It gets you into position to do this, it gives you the CG, or it gives you information from hypnosis, or whatever, we've done all that whole event thing. That's the thing for me. So I don't get really too stressed out about it. I mean, obviously, when you watch my videos, I'll probably be like, oh, for fuck's sake, right? But honestly, like, if I draw double fast horse on the same person or double knife on the same person, I can't keep one, I'll just ditch it then. Like, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. The event could be that's the thing. You want to hold the events because that's the thing. Yeah, they're the powerful things, really. Even though items are extremely powerful and they come in combat and stuff, the events turn the game, not the items, as far as I'm concerned. So
I agree, and I think as you say, that you just burn them what you don't need. If don't worry about it. Don't hang on to the stuff that's because I like this. You can get through them all. And again, as you say, the events arguably are going to do more. If you've got heroic leap on you, then arguably you don't need any fucking weapon. So
Yeah, but that does more than any weapon would on its own.
yeah, you know what I mean. You just take the 5 damage, job done, and that's it. So don't sit and kind of I like these ones. I'm gonna do, because if I'm playing against you as Dracula, I'll fucking love it. But I want to look at the discard pile and see that there's loads of knives and fucking stuff through, and you're like, oh, happy days. But the game won't allow you to be a stickler in your ways, so you've got to be flexible with it to get the best result from both Drac and Hunter. You can't. Again, we've said with Drac, you can't go into this with, here's my strategy for this game, I'm going to go here, then do that and do this, because you can't, because it's reactive to the Hunters. Maybe have 2 or 3 contingency plans. Again, typically, if you're going to get into a fight with Drac and it's a 2-on-1, 3-on-1, the weapons do come into effect, but again, you've probably got a chance that you've either cornered him or you can start supplying. But then we go, like you mentioned, in the event you got lucky find. So you could kick around with fast horses, a stake, and a heavenly host. You play lucky find, and all of a sudden you draw a knife with it. You're all right, fuck it, I'll dump the stake. I don't need it. So
yeah.
These are, not surplus to demand, but I think there's a lot of onus put on these about. I don't want to get rid of this because what if? It's like, well,
if
recover, other things.
If the trade-off is I have to ditch a knife or heavenly host, but in return I get something like a CG, obviously you don't know until you draw it, but if that's the trade-off between getting a CG or even something a little bit more like mid-tier, like sense of emergency or something like that, I'd take that all day long over, who cares? I'll ditch the heavenly host then. I find it quite funny, it'd be interesting if Quincy replies to this, because Quincy's put a couple of comments. He's seen me ditch heavenly host in some games. He's putting like XD into the comments, but that's the cool thing about it. Like, people can have different opinions, and that's absolutely fine. But for me, it's just like, I'll happily ditch. I'm not being a reckless fool running around with just like 2 garlics and a holy circle, but yeah, well, normally not anyway. But I'm not going to lose sleep over.
How much tea you've drank?
Yeah, true.
Garlics and a fast horse. Yeah.
Let's go.
Take that, Drac.
Well, weapons are for pussies.
just pure putting the nut on Drac. Fuck you, take that, you prick.
Right. Well, on that note, we've managed to do a recording in less than 2 hours, so well done. Congratulations, Ross. Well done.
Well done, yeah, you. You control your guests instead of letting them rant for hours.
I think that's the series completed, so I don't know what else we're going to fucking do. I'm going to do a video at some point based upon like the different facets of the game, but apart from that, I don't know what else we're going to fucking do. We're going to have to do like the
only one is the power cards for Drac, but that's only 5 at the minute. I don't think we've covered the power cards.
No, that's true. No, we haven't, but like, yeah, there's only 5 of them. Do we do a combat guide? I don't know. We'll see. We'll probably take a break over Christmas. We'll figure it out. But anyway, well, thank you, Rossco, for joining for this. It's been really good fun to do these 3 videos with you and to hear your insights.
That's been interesting. It's good that we've agreed on most things. I think most people watching would agree, because again, they're kind of they kind of fall into tears themselves. Great that it just allows you to, depending on what your fighting style or play style is, you can just pick and choose what you want. So, no, thank you. Hope your listeners enjoy it, and if you don't, then fuck yous.
There you go. That's my marketing director for you. That's top notch. Right. Take care, everybody. See you in the next video very soon.